Welcome back to Who Wants the Smoke, the show where hot takes fly, picks get spicy, and nobody's safe. Today, we're diving into UFC 317, a card packed with violence, stakes, and breakout potential. Whether you're here to ride the chalk or sniff out dogs, we've got you covered from top to bottom. Let's get into it. Last week we went 7 out of 12 on picks. Not bad considering the chaos that went down. We also nailed 4 exact outcomes, including some sharp reads on tough matchups. And yeah, there were some massive upsets that shook up the card, but that's the game. Underdogs bite, and we're always hunting value. Let's keep that momentum rolling into this week's slate. This feels like a classic prospect versus veteran matchmaking spot. Nico is tough but declining, and Smith is young, explosive, and dangerous everywhere the fight goes. Price's only path is landing something wild early or hoping Jacoby gasses, but that's a low percentage shot. More likely, Smith walks him down, lands big shots, and mixes in takedowns to dominate. Nico Price is one of the UFC's wildest action fighters. He's got power, slick subs, and a willingness to eat punches to land his own. He's known for highlight reel finishes, including 2 knockouts off his back. But at this point in his career, that chaos-first style is catching up to him. He looked slower and more hittable in his loss to Themba Gorimbo, still tough, but clearly aging. Jacoby Smith is a surging prospect who brings nasty wrestling, explosive hands, and serious finishing instincts. He doesn't have the cleanest technique on the feet, but his speed and power make him dangerous. On the mat, he's heavy, aggressive, and always hunting for a finish. He's undefeated, confident, and riding a wave of momentum into this fight. The UFC clearly sees potential here, and is giving him a bet to showcase it. Pick Jacoby Smith via TKO or dominant decision. Best bet, Jacoby inside the distance. Nico just doesn't have the speed, durability, or gas tank to keep up anymore. Unless Smith makes a huge mistake or crashes under the lights, this is his fight to lose, and a chance for him to put his name on the map. Before diving into tape, this felt like a good spot for Alvin Hines. Big, undefeated wrestler versus a guy who just got exposed on the ground. Easy pick, right? But once you actually watch the tape, the gap in striking becomes impossible to ignore. Deniz's technique, speed, and power are leagues ahead. Hines charges forward with slow 1 and 2s and telegraphed clinch attempts that won't fly against a pro-level kickboxer. Jonata Deniz is an elite striker with a clean, powerful kickboxing style. He throws in combinations, has solid defense, and fights with composure. His biggest weakness is once he hits the mat. His ground game looked awful in the Tybura fight. But against someone like Hines, who isn't known for overwhelming volume or control, Deniz may never get put there. If this stays standing, he likely ends it early. Alvin Hines is strong, gritty, and has a wrestle-first approach, but his tools are extremely raw. He blitzes with sloppy punches just to get to the clinch and look for a takedown. He's undefeated, but hasn't faced any real adversity. He's slow, flat-footed, and entering the UFC on short notice. If he can't chain takedowns together or survive the opening minutes, this debut could get ugly fast. Pick Jonata Deniz by KO TKO. Best bet, pass or Deniz ITD, low confidence. There are too many unknowns on the Hines side, and Deniz's glaring ground flaws make him hard to trust fully. Still, Deniz's striking is elite, and Hines hasn't shown enough to inspire confidence. If Alvin's chin isn't A+, he's probably getting cracked early. Keep it light or just watch. This one's a showcase or a trap. On paper, this fight looks like a mismatch. An undefeated young prospect versus a fighter with recent legal trouble and a KO loss. You'd expect McVeigh to run through Dumas easily, but Dumas isn't totally hopeless. He's serviceable everywhere, and durable enough to survive a round or 2. Still, his wrestling and fight IQ are poor, so if McVeigh mixes it up well, this one could be a clear but not total blowout. Dumas is a jack-of-all-trades, master of none. He can wrestle a bit, kickbox a bit, and grind out a fight without quitting. But there's no area where he truly excels. His chin is decent, and he shows heart, but his technique and fight IQ lag behind. His recent KO loss exposed his defensive flaws, and off-cage issues have hurt his reputation. He's more of a gatekeeper than a contender right now. McVeigh is an athletic, rangy fighter with solid fundamentals for both striking and grappling. He uses his height and reach advantage well, busy jab, teep kicks, to keep opponents at range. He's quick on his feet with good movement and a sneaky submission game that makes him dangerous on the ground. Recently active and motivated, McVeigh looks like a rising prospect ready to capitalize on a favorable matchup. Pick Jackson McVeigh by KO or submission. Best bet, McVeigh to win, medium confidence. This feels like a fight the UFC booked for McVeigh to showcase his tools and build momentum. Dumas' poor wrestling defense and limited offense make it tough for him to threaten. McVeigh should control distance with strikes and mix in takedowns or submissions if needed. Expect McVeigh to win comfortably, especially if he stays disciplined and avoids early danger. People say Terrence McKinney is unreliable, hot and cold like Kevin Holland, but that's misleading. McKinney's style is very consistent. He comes out blazing fast, dominates early, and either finishes or fades hard. The question isn't what he does, but if he can survive the early storm without gassing or getting caught. Vyacheslav Borshchov is durable, but at 55 in fight years, this early heat from McKinney could overwhelm. McKinney is a powerhouse with solid hands, wrestling, and BJJ. His only flaws are cardio and a vulnerable chin. He either finishes or fades. Every UFC fight he's had ended before round 3. He showed growth recently with a takedown defense and slick sweep against Damir Hadzovic. His explosiveness and relentless pressure can bury opponents quickly, but if he fades, he's open to getting finished. Borshchov is a technical striker with a strong kickboxing pedigree, armed with a sharp jab, power, and kicks. However, his takedown defense is poor, with a 43% rate and over 30 takedowns absorbed in 8 UFC fights. He's durable but has been ragdolled by wrestlers before. Coming off a loss, his striking skills give him a chance, but he must survive McKinney's early onslaught and avoid getting grounded. Pick: Terrence McKinney by early finish. Best bet: McKinney ITD, high confidence. McKinney's all-or-nothing style makes this a fight where early chaos favors him heavily. If he finishes quickly, it's textbook McKinney. If Borshchov survives the initial storm, his striking could turn the tide, but McKinney's youth, momentum, and pressure make a late comeback unlikely. Expect a violent early finish from McKinney. At first glance, Tracy Cortez seems like the clear favorite. Strong wrestler with solid cardio versus Viviane Araujo, who is older and has cardio concerns. It looks straightforward. Cortez grinds down opponents and should control this fight. But Araujo's elite takedown defense and striking power complicate things. If Cortez can't get her down, she's stuck trading strikes with a stronger, more powerful fighter who excels standing. Araujo is a grappler comfortable on her feet, with technical boxing and hard, low kicks. She's athletic, fast, and aggressive, always hunting a finish standing or on the ground. Her 80% takedown defense is top tier, frustrating wrestlers regularly. However, she takes damage often and struggles with conditioning late in fights. Coming off a decision win over Karine Silva, she'll rely on striking to keep the fight out of Cortez's wrestling range. Cortez is a high-volume technical striker, but her power is limited. Her true strength is wrestling. She averages nearly 3 takedowns per fight and controls well on the mat. Her BJJ is solid, but not a huge threat for submissions. She relies heavily on cardio and grinding opponents down. Her recent loss to Rose Namajunas showed her struggles when she can't impose wrestling early, highlighting the risk if Araujo keeps her standing. Pick: Tracy Cortez by decision. Best bet: over rounds and Araujo, plus 3.5. Decision: Cortez is favored because of wrestling and cardio, but Araujo's takedown defense and striking power make this a close fight. Expect a grind-heavy battle with long stretches, standing and on the ground. With Araujo's gas tank a concern and Cortez's lack of striking pop, the safest bets are the fight going the distance and a hedge on Araujo to cover the plus 3.5 line. Jose Delgado looks like the classic dangerous finisher: 9 wins, all stoppages, flashy strikes, and power. On paper, he seems unstoppable, early, and devastating inside the pocket. But we haven't seen him in a long competitive fight yet, especially against durable opponents who set a steady pace. Haider Emil fits that mold: tough, consistent, and able to keep a fight grinding for 15 minutes. Haider Amel is a pressure fighter who walks forward with aggression and volume. He's got a solid chin and decent power, and though his wrestling isn't elite, he'll opportunistically mix takedowns when he can. On the ground, he throws heavy shots but can be vulnerable to position loss. Coming off a close win over William Gomez, he showed the ability to maintain pace and grind out rounds with a critical takedown. Jose Delgado is a rangy striker who uses kicks to maintain distance and employs upper body head movement reminiscent of Mike Tyson to close the gap. He packs serious power and isn't afraid to throw risky spinning techniques. His grappling is solid with takedown capability and ground and pound. However, his takedown defense has shown holes, which could be exploited by someone like Haider, who pressures hard. Pick: Haider Emil by decision. Best bet: pass or Haider decision. Low confidence. This fight is a classic clash of endurance versus explosiveness. Delgado's knockout power makes him dangerous early, but Haider's durability and pressure should carry him through the later rounds. If Haider can weather the early storm and make it a fight of attrition, he's the likely winner. Betting is risky on both sides due to Delgado's finishing upside. Gregory Rodriguez is a clear favorite here, almost 2-1, but that feels a bit generous. He's bigger, stronger, faster, and hits harder, sure, but Jack Hermanson has proven he can survive early storms and grind his way back, as he did against Joe Pyfer. This fight could play out very similarly. Rodriguez starts hot, but risks fading, while Hermansson's pressure and cardio kick in later. Jack Hermansson is a grappling specialist with strong ground control, especially if he can secure takedowns. Just ask anyone except Roman Dolidze. His striking has improved, but isn't a knockout threat. It's solid and serviceable. Hermansson isn't flashy or overly athletic, but is tough, smart, and reliable. He's known for walking down opponents once he survives early trouble, like in his recent win over Piper. Gregory Rodriguez is a well-rounded fighter with serious power and a BJJ black belt, though he prefers to keep fights standing thanks to very good takedown defense. He's a big, strong guy who can threaten everywhere, striking and grappling. However, his cardio has been exposed before, most notably in his KO loss to Jared Cannonier, where his early success vanished as the rounds went on. Pick: Gregory Rodriguez by decision. Best bet: pass or Rodriguez. Early rounds, medium confidence. This is a classic 3-round fight where Rodriguez's early power and speed should give him the edge. But if Hermansson survives the first 2, expect pressure and volume to take over late. Betting on Rodriguez makes sense given the round limit, but keep an eye on live swings if the fight goes deep. Peyton Talbot went from 1,200 to a plus 154 underdog in just one fight. That's a ridiculous swing, but it shows how brutal and reactionary this game is. Talbot lost to a tough vet via grappling, and suddenly the hype is gone. Fans jump ship, and the UFC feeds him to another savage. The truth? One loss doesn't erase talent. It reveals where adjustments are needed. This matchup is wild for how early it is in both their careers. Peyton is a high-output striker with size, speed, and flash. He fights tall, throws with confidence, and was being built up as a future contender. But his last fight exposed a major hole: wrestling defense. Once he was grounded, he looked lost. The big question here is whether that was a fluke or a fatal flaw. His volume and striking upside are still elite-level tools. Felipe Lima is a savage. His pace, pressure, and ability to flow between spinning kicks and powerful takedowns make him dangerous. He's not a one-shot KO guy, but he breaks people with cardio and mixing it up. His win over Miles Johns showed maturity, grit, and a real understanding of how to control a fight from all angles. Pick: Felipe Lima. Bet: pass. The line might be overcorrecting, but Lima's pace, pressure, and complete game give him the edge. Talbot can absolutely win if he stays composed and lets his hands go, but if he stalls or gets grounded again, it could be a repeat. This is more of a prospect assessment fight than a sharp betting angle. This fight came together fast after Van's win at UFC 316, and the line opened surprisingly wide with Van as a 260 favorite. That quickly corrected as the market woke up to the fact that Royval is not some washed-up vet. He's still elite and very much in his prime. The fact Van took this on short notice only adds to the volatility. Brandon Royval is chaos incarnate. He's got relentless pressure, diverse, unorthodox striking, wild grappling with constant sub-threats, high-level experience versus the division's best. His biggest asset is pace. He forces fights into scrambles, overwhelms opponents, and thrives in messes. His last win over Tyra showed he can still deal with elite rising talent. Josh Van is a super promising 23-year-old striker who mixes fast hands with strong boxing fundamentals, has improved defensive grappling and decent scrambles, is durable in game with good instincts and transitions, but his UFC resume so far includes mostly wrestlers and mid-tier guys. This is his first fight against an elite, unpredictable striker-grappler hybrid. Pick: Brandon Royval. Lean: Royval moneyline, if still reasonable. This feels like a welcome to the deep end fight for Van. He could have some success early, especially if Royval gets reckless, but the pace, experience, and chaos Royval brings should eventually break through. A late finish or clear decision feels likely if Royval stays composed. Van is the future. Royval is still the present. Renato Moicano opened as a more than 2-1 favorite, and that raised eyebrows for good reason. On paper, it feels like he's surging and Beneil is fading. But scratch the surface, and this is a much closer fight skill for skill. Moicano is juggling a gym, media, and fight prep, while Beneil is trying to prove he's not washed after 2 brutal losses. Momentum favors Moicano. The intangibles, dead even. Despite the recent KO losses to Arman and Oliveira, Beneil is still one of the best scramblers in the division, holds elite takedown defense, watch the Gamrot fight for proof, has legit knockout power and awkward but effective striking. He's still mentally sharp, even if durability is in question. His resume is stacked with wins over names like Ferguson, Gamrot, and Ferreira. If he's still durable, this is a winnable fight. Moicano is in his prime technically. Clean, high-volume boxing with a nasty jab, dangerous BJJ game, especially once he gets on top. Good pace, slick transitions, and improving fight IQ, but he's not a great takedown artist, often clinches or trips. His chin is shaky, and Beneil still hits hard. He's spread thin between coaching, gym management, and media. Still, he's on a run, and stylistically, he could win on output if he doesn't get rocked or stuffed. Moicano's pace, cardio, and slick grappling could overwhelm a battle-worn Dariush. Beneil still has elite scrambles and striking, but the recent damage and Moicano's momentum point to a potential finish. Moicano ITD covers both a club and sub or a late TKO scenario. If Beneil fades, Moicano can break him. This is technically a rematch, but their first fight was on TUF back in 2016 and doesn't count officially, nor does it matter. Pantoja dominated then, and the dynamic hasn't changed much. He opened around 260, which some think is wide, but it might actually be generous. Kai is fast and dangerous, but he's smaller and likely gets overwhelmed if this hits the mat early or often. Pantoja is a pressure-heavy grappler who walks forward and breaks guys down, has sneaky power and tight combos, dominates in top position with control and sub-threats, absorbs damage well and never stops moving forward. He's coming off another gritty win against a top striker, Asakura, showing his ability to make elite strikers look helpless once he gets on top. Kai Kara-France is a clean, high-level striker who uses quick footwork, crisp boxing, and solid timing, has strong TDD, 88%, and sharp counters, can struggle when pressured or stuck on his back. Isn't the biggest flyweight, which matters here. He's dangerous in space, but doesn't have many tools off his back. Against a relentless top player like Pantoja, that's a major liability. Pick Alexandre Pantoja. Lean, Pantoja, ITD, or sub-prop. This has all the makings of a Pantoja grindfest. Kai might land some shots early, but Pantoja's pressure, size, and grappling volume should take over. If he gets him down, the control and submission threat will be overwhelming. The ITD prop offers value at this price, and the matchup leans heavily toward Pantoja the longer it goes. This is a fascinating clash of eras. Ilia opened around 190 and has held steady as the favorite, with the public largely backing the new wave. Some concerns have emerged over Ilia's size, especially after that viral Rosas Jr. pick, but weigh-ins will tell the truth. On paper, it's Topuria's explosiveness versus Oliveira's chaos and finishing ability. Ilia is a dangerous, composed killer. Explosive hands with KO power. Underrated grappling and top control. Smart, adaptive fight IQ. Adjusts mid-fight. Only hit cleanly when forced into chaos. He's coming off the career-defining KO of Holloway and looks like the full package. His wrestling base and power striking make him one of the division's most complete threats. Oliveira is the chaos king of 155. Deadly Muay Thai kicks and knees, aggressive subs from every angle, elite finishing instincts, but hittable, especially early. He's still dangerous, but he's taken damage and slowed slightly. He's coming off a grindy decision win over Chandler, but hasn't looked like the same wild finisher of 2022. Pick Ilia Topuria. Lean Topuria ITD. If Charles brings chaos early, Ilia will need composure. But if he stays calm, avoids the first round madness, and finds his rhythm, this is his fight to lose. Ilia has the tighter boxing, better chin, and a wrestling edge to dictate pace. Oliveira is always live, but the safer and smarter side is the younger, sharper fighter with momentum, Topuria. Thanks for tuning in and breaking down these fights with me. I appreciate you sticking around and hearing my takes. Hopefully it helps you make some smart bets or just enjoy the action more. Make sure to subscribe and follow for more fight previews, recaps, and deep dives. Drop your thoughts or questions in the comments. I love hearing what you think. Until next time, stay sharp and enjoy fight night.